Today marks an exciting milestone as we continue our ongoing series featuring
Yeah.
remarkable individuals who've left an indelible mark on both education and spirituality. In our third episode of the series, I'm thrilled to introduce a true luminary, Michele
Mhm.
Marie Angel. Michele is not only a passionate teacher, but a trailblazer with a diverse educational background. She holds a bachelor's degree in elementary education from the esteemed University of Central Florida and furthered her academic journey with a master's degree in computer science education from Nova Southeastern University. Michele's commitment to education extends across state lines with certifications to teach in both Florida and Oregon. Beyond the traditional realms of public school teaching, Michele has immersed herself in the field of spiritual education, and a staunch advocate for holistic learning. She has crafted and presented numerous classes, seminars, and events enriching the lives of those who seek spiritual enlightenment. Michele's literary prowess shines through her impactful books, including her debut in 2005 with It's a New World After All. Her subsequent works, Live, Love, Master Vision and Vibration to Create a Better World, and Forever Free, Soul Liberation with the Holy Spirit of Truth, which continues to inspire readers worldwide. Marie shares her profound insights through a 48 thought-provoking stories for awakened awareness and contributes to reputable online magazine, Ezine. Michele dedicates herself to group consciousness, leading classes in manifestation using meditation, intentions, and visioning. Her commitment to conscious creation and mastery consistently produces reliable results. Her influence extends beyond academia and literature as she actively participates in the Alchemy of Light project. This transformative initiative focuses on creating a groundbreaking curriculum for holistic education, exemplifying her dedication to making a positive impact on the world. So today we're going to delve into her journey, and we're going to talk about surrender and attunement.
I want to say thank you for having me. I enjoy our interviews so much.
I was thinking about the title, Surrender Attunement, and it's about the alchemy of surrender, the alchemy of letting go. Its truest alchemical form is the mystical process of transmuting resistance into acceptance. It's the conscious choice to release the illusion of control and embrace the cosmic dance of existence. My question is, how do you personally define real surrender in the spiritual sense?
It has to do with identity and free will choice. I've had a daily meditation, deep meditation practice for over 20 years, and surrender's been at the heart of that practice. So I let go of things that are bothering me. I let go of pretty much the small self. That's what I intend, is to let go of the small self and be one with the intelligence of the greater self in a humble fashion, because the less we think we know, the more we can learn. So I surrender what I think I know, even what I think I know about myself. It opens up my heart and my soul channel to receive divine guidance. As I attune to God's will, I surrender to God's will, and I attune to God's divine plan and basically understand that I am a child of God and an instrument of God. I go in to get guidance and wisdom every day when I meditate. I also use spiritual literature and different types of scripture, like the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, also spiritual writings of other people, masters mostly. This combination of reading, contemplation, reflection, and surrender has brought me a wealth of information, inspiration, and divine beingness. Can at once be like the bratty child pouting in meditation, like the soul who's surrendering, saying, but I know this isn't really a bad thing to resist. It is something I need to surrender so I can learn how to go with the flow and see what is the blessing what is the lesson? What is the purpose of whatever I'm resisting or whatever's bothering me? And I really do let go. With that, I have received much of the inspiration for my books, really, and my life, because I propose that I am not someone here to necessarily teach, but to learn and to set an example. The best way to teach is to set an example. One of my stories for Awaken Awareness, as a matter of fact, is help me walk the talk. So the intention is let me walk it before I talk it. Because I had observed people before saying one thing and doing another, and it just seemed a little bit out of integrity. And we can still make mistakes and be authentic about it. I didn't want to have a wide gap between what I was saying and what I was living, because again, example is the best teacher. And our whole soul's evolution, for me, it's the whole purpose for being here.
Can you share a specific experience where surrendering led to a profound transformation in your life?
The one that comes to my mind first and foremost actually makes me laugh, and I'm afraid I might have said it again. So one time I went to a little picnic at the neighbor's front yard. You know, they were having other neighbors in. I was a substitute teacher at the time in a new school district. It's when I first started teaching in Oregon. And she said, how would you like to be a full-time temporary sub? So somebody was going out on maternity leave. There was a long-term sub position, so you teach full-time for a period of time as a sub. I said, sure. And it was in a computer classroom, and my master's degree is in computer science education. I'd been a computer teacher before. So I thought, that sounds like fun. I did it. Then the person decided not to come back. So I landed into the job. I was asked by the principal to stay and told I'd have to get highly qualified, which is a term meaning you've got to get the credentials within a certain period of time. So I had to get my high school credential because I'd been teaching middle school math and computers. I went to Southern Oregon University for 3 classes. But when I first got the job, part of me was dismayed. I was saying to God in meditation, pouting, really. It all flowed. When it's in the flow, it's divine. And it flowed so easily, I knew I was placed there by God. And I'm saying, God, why did you put me in this high school public setting when you know I want to teach spiritual education? I had already worked for Neil Donald Walsh, for myself, creating workshops. I love creating and presenting and being a facilitator for higher consciousness. After I said my piece, I shut up in meditation, listened, and I received the best download ever. There was a purpose for me to be there. I went with the flow, and it served me in so many ways. It was a great income. I ended up getting retirement from that state because of that, because I did it for several years. I ended up learning a lot of things that I would have never been aware of. I still serve the souls in my classroom spiritually. It was like a treasure chest of soul development, really.
Mm.
It still serves me to this day, but I surrendered to it. And here's what I said in my mind and in my heart. Okay, I'm done with the surrender. I'm going to make a difference wherever I'm at. This is where I find myself. I'll do my best here. I did a lot of things that I feel like positively impacted my students.
It's interesting you saying that because when you proposed this title, it made me wonder about the dance of trust because I thought about surrender. To my mind, it's not a passive resignation, but it's an active dance of trust with the universe.
Yeah.
In looking at reframing it from a masculine perspective, because we don't like to surrender really, we want to
Oh,
control
no.
everything, right? It really involves an active letting go of the need to micromanage outcomes and
Exactly.
allowing the divine orchestration to unfold. So
Right.
the alchemist of surrender, to my mind, understands that true power lies in trust, and the universe is the ultimate alchemy workshop. How do you navigate the balance between actively participating in life and surrendering to the cosmic flow?
That's interesting because it is a dance. We both transmit and we receive. We also become observers when we go with the flow. Transmission is putting out there what you choose to experience or create. Receptivity is hearing the guidance and the intuition, the soul's messages through feelings. And the observer going with the flow is completely passive in a way, non-emotional, but oh, I see that this is what is happening. A very objective, neutral observer, sending, if you will, the whole scene, seeing it from a higher point of view. Oh, I see what came before, what came after. I see another perspective. I can change perspectives up here in my transcendent mind, if you will. Be that objective observer and see the bigger picture and how it fits in,
Mm.
because I do transmit when I manifest, and I do receive guidance and distinct intuition, and also synchronicities, which is part of the guidance.
And
And
are there any practices or insights that have helped you to cultivate a sense of trust in the unfolding of life's journey?
yes, I read a lot of literature and study the masters. I love Jesus, or Yeshua, as many people like to say, and I ask for perfect trust and ask to be in that space, in that consciousness of
Mm.
perfect trust. That's another part of surrender. Trusting is part of surrender. My trust has actually grown and strengthened through the years because of surrender. Everything always turns out fine. I always get through everything. I always end up on top. What I need comes through at the perfect time. I have learned to grow trust from the reliable results from the surrender, going with the flow. Also, I want to say, like when I'm manifesting, I'll transmit images married to feelings, like the intentions, and then let that go.
When you mentioned imagery, I was thinking about the phoenix of surrender. The image that came up was surrender is like the fiery process of the phoenix rising from its ashes. It burns away the old patterns, the beliefs, the attachments, and paves the way for a rebirth into a higher state of consciousness. Surrender is the alchemy of self transformation and transcendence.
That is a great metaphor or analogy, because I picture the moth flying straight into the flame and rising above in spirit. It's like the rebirth. You give up the identity of the physical body and materialism, and you rise in spirit, the true essential self. That's the resurrection, the life, the rebirth. And that
Mm.
resurrection happens by going straight into the flame, which is what we do when we put our attention inside on our inner light and surrender to the highest intelligence, that creative intelligence of the oneness of spirit. When we dive right in and give up everything else about the self, then we're resurrected and reborn in spirit. We know oneness. We don't think about it or see it from the outside. We are it.
Was there a moment in your spiritual journey where surrender felt like a profound alchemical process?
Within the last 6 months, I would say, I had the intuitive knowing that I had built my light body, and my true identity truly is light. Although I still have a physical body, I'm more identified. I am wielding the power of the light body, which grace by grace gets built as we do our spiritual practices. I felt like I am this really strong light body, no matter what. The physical body is, I feel, I know, because it comes from that place of inner knowing, is being transformed by that light body, my true self, that I perceive in a surreal but real way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Something I've been thinking a lot about and meditating on in terms of light, because I'm an amateur photographer, and for me, everything is
Mhm.
about light. Light doesn't lie. Brings everything out into the open. One of the things that comes up in me is how do you help others through your programs embrace the transformative power of surrender in their own lives?
I can only be the arrow. Each person has their own growth and has to do their own self-realization. But I can be the arrow, the pointer. I can show processes and I can show what I did. And I can make bullet points and make things step by step and point out lots of details, which I do because I have quite a bit between the books, the workbooks, the classes, and the 12-step ascension process. I have so many presentations, books that are going to be organized in such a way that they're going to be going out to the public more than just the 3 books that are available right now. My next step in my journey is I am crossing a bridge right now to reach a wider audience. I think it's no accident that we're together because I think this is also a universal new cycle for people on our wavelength, basically the paradigm pioneers. January 2024, it is change time, bridge time, taking a first few steps into the new paradigm where we're in service. We're also being alert and aware and looking at signs of synchronicity. There is a universal orchestration putting people together, like you and I, really, and groups that work together in loving cooperation to be lighthouses, guides, show the way, because we have paved a path and each person has their own individual path, but having a guide and a light, exploring different processes and tools from the different paradigm pioneers is extremely beneficial, not just to pave a new way in their own way, but when you partake of somebody else's work, the person who was the sower that did the work, someone can come along and read one of these books, for example, or anything that's available on my website, because a lot of it's free. They can be the reaper. In other words, if I sowed and created higher consciousness, they can step into and attune to that field that I've worked many years, and they can be part of that field in that higher vibrational consciousness without having done all the work. I didn't know this was going to happen, but I gave somebody a reading. During this particular reading, I said, you can just sit quietly and meditate. I'm going to go into spirit and write down the messages. While I do that, you can meditate, ask questions, whatever you want. This person went into meditation, and afterwards I gave the reading. After the reading and the feedback, she said to me, that was the best and deepest meditation I've ever been able to achieve. She was in the same field that I was in my home space, where I create this sacred space, sacred energy. I do more meditation here, quiet solitude, meditation, writing. That's like the energy of where I live.
That talks about attunement. When we navigate the frequencies of our existence, then we can look at the resonance and harmony. The reading you gave that lady who had that experience because there was resonance, there was harmony. For me, attunement in a spiritual alchemical context is like tuning into the cosmic frequencies that underlie existence. It's the resonance with the symphony of the universe, like a dance of harmonious vibrations that connect the seeker with the fundamental rhythms of creation. That posits the question of how do you perceive attunement about resonance and harmony on a personal and universal level?
Uh, the inner sense within is a feeling of peace that passeth all understanding, the presence of God, and knowing the oneness of the presence of God. So it's a peaceful presence. It's also attunement to the intelligence that reliably comes through every time you go deep. Once you have reached that 0 point, I'm just calling it 0 point, when you are like right there where you're in direct communion with God without a doubt. It feels like deep peace. You're in the zone. It's very blissful, peaceful, love. I've done many times what I call getting stuck in meditation. I'm not really stuck. It's just that I don't want to leave. I do it in the morning before I have to work or start my day. And I don't want to go to work or start my day. I just want to stay in that space because it feels so good. But anyway, when you do it enough, you create that baseline state of consciousness, and it lasts longer and longer until that's how you are all the time.
Mm.
That achievement comes from grace by grace and a lot of effort and dedication and devotion, and intention, of course. So my intention and what I have said is I'm attuning for God. In other words, I'm not entrained and I don't succumb to any lower vibrational frequencies, no matter where they might come from. Wherever I am, God is. I'm maintaining the God frequency. I'm not going down, but I will lift others up. If they're receptive and want to be in a higher frequency, sometimes it's conscious, most of the time it's not. My normal self is peaceful, joyful, blissful, often childlike and silly, actually. That's why I like working with kids so much. We really resonate.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really have set the intention to not be entrained because I understand frequency. I basically can, with my inner eye of intuition, I can see energy, and intention is so powerful. You can intend to build that light body, emit and radiate light, increase the luminosity. So you don't generate it, but you amplify the light on purpose. You can see it and you can say it and intend it. Then purposely be a lighthouse, because when you realize your soul essence, you know that you are part of the all, and you have a great desire to be of service and to be helpful. I'm a child of God. I'm an instrument of God. So I can break that down with my big life purpose. I can break that down daily and say, who am I in service to?
It's amazing because light is in service to us as human beings. We are giant tuning forks, but what are we attuned to? That's the question, because we can be tuned or attuned to anything. The greatest gift we are given is the gift of choice. Can you share an experience where attuning to a specific frequency brought about a profound shift in your consciousness?
I'm going to tell you the first thing that came to mind when you said that. I have passed cell towers before. I would use my intention, my vision, and my heart, which is our great tool of electromagnetic and photonic radiation, to say, in my intention and vision, I would turn that cell tower into a lighthouse for God and raise its frequency so that instead of having it put out any lower vibrational frequencies or anything negative or damaging, that it raises its frequency and is a beacon of light of higher frequency, something completely benevolent and pure. I feel like I have the faith and the power to make such changes. If I can believe it, I can achieve it.
That's the power of our imagination. That's the power of using light as distinct from the mind, because the mind plays all kinds of tricks. But when we move into light, it has its own frequencies, it has its vibration. Within the quantum field and energy resonance of attunement, because it delves into the quantum fields of energy where vibrations weave the fabric of reality. To my mind, I recognize that everything is interconnected. And when we attune our energy, we can navigate and influence that quantum dance.
Yes.
In the alchemy of attunement, consciousness becomes the master alchemist because we're in that field of consciousness. We are in consciousness.
And consciousness is light. Consciousness has all the properties of light. We have different types of intelligence. You can talk about electro, you can talk about magnetic, and you can talk about photonic. You can talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You can talk about the brain mind, ego mind, the heart intelligence, the soul intelligence, perceptions. So we have different dimensional frequencies with different types of intelligence. The spiritual intelligence can pick up on much more subtle information than the ego mind intelligence. Each type of intelligence has its benefits. The ego mind can analyze and it can do data and it can remember. I love pretty much left brain and right brain and heart intelligence. That's another way to put it. So I love left brain. I loved math. I loved computers. I love all of that.
That's part of our 3D life. And I
Yeah.
don't think we're meant to escape the 3D life. I think that, yes, we draw in from higher dimensions, things like intuition, things like perception, being psychic, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all these things come in from different dimensions. But we think, oh, we have to escape the 3D life. I think we're here to, in a sense, slow down time so we can experience those things. Because from the NDE that I had, time was irrelevant, everything was instant. It made me think I'm here on earth to slow down time so that I can experience all of these different aspects of life, which are much more instant in another dimension. But all those dimensions are, I believe, are integrated, like you say. They're all part and parcel of intentional attunement, universal, creational, planetary, intentional attunement.
We can go in and out of the dimension of time. We can
Mm.
go into no time, no space consciousness. That's the 0 point. We can speed up time and we can slow down time. As we become masters, we can, of course, do time travel. We can change the past. We can jump into the future. In a way, we do it already with our mind, not just our brain mind or ego mind, but the whole totality of the integrated mind, soul included, because you get the subtle, fine, infinite intelligence of the universe through the soul, which we can emphasize one type of mind or the other based on the application or the need at the moment.
That's the alchemist symphony, because attunement, much like a master alchemist, can compose this symphony, but it involves the orchestration of the energies of mind, body, and spirit into this integrated, harmonious whole. It's the recognition that life's melody is rich and diverse. When we attune to the subtle notes of existence, we gain access to the keys of profound transformation and transcendence.
Absolutely. When you go into nature and you resonate with the essence of nature, because the essence of our nature is light, the essence of nature is nature, the whole essence is light, light is consciousness. That's one way to tune is to be in nature besides
Mm.
meditation. The other beautiful thing about alchemy is understanding the conservation of energy.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a situation and you wonder what it would be like if you had another situation. That's part of alchemy. What would it be like if I improve the situation or if it were different? And you start playing with the energy and then you start visioning something different. Something comes up for healing, like a past pain, grief. You're like, oh, there's this energy. In the conservation of energy, energy isn't created or destroyed, it only changes form. When it comes up for healing, you can go, oh, this is great. I'm not just healing and releasing this energy. Oh, no. I am so powerful that I can take this energy with alchemy, get the wisdom out of the lead of experience, and keep that golden wisdom, and that the purpose has been served, and create a new purpose. Lately, I've been using the violet flame because there's always energy to transmute and heal for ourselves, for others. I did a process recently and I called in higher beings of light, angels, archangels, masters, light beings, galactics. I am asking, I'm calling this big team in for help. And then I made a list of things that I was intending to manifest, which specifically has to do with my being of service and my life's mission. I'm in that process right now. I'll pay attention to it. I'll do the transmission. I will be in gratitude that it's already done. The vision of one of the things is a place to teach my classes and do my workshops. And this little phrase I heard was, love is the key. So I'm pretending I have this key in my hand and it's made out of love, of course. And I'm going into the place. So I go there in my mind. I look at some of the different rooms. Of course, it has a kitchen because we're going to have to eat when we celebrate. And I have the different rooms and spaces that I'll be needing, including a gift shop. It's so much fun to be in that space. Because I have manifested before, I know where my mind goes. That's what my reality is coming. I've been using the violet flame to transmute, using the conservation of energy, thanking for its purpose, giving it a new purpose, which is to manifest these things in the oneness awareness, knowing that there are other beings and higher beings and related guides and angels, tasking them to be on the team and create this as we're working together in loving cooperation in the divine plan to raise consciousness, to be fun and to be light. I give out awards. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of food. There's the classes, of course, the events, and I just have so much fun. It will happen.
Well, it already has.
Yes. But understanding and using consciously the conservation of energy, because that's how, the energy is not created nor destroyed. But when I'm healing, when I'm crying, especially when this energy is coming up for healing and being released, I'm especially powerful. That's when I need to focus on solutions and my vision in the future and not the past with blame or judgment or remorse or grief. Definitely authentically feel feelings, but recognize it all as energy and saying, oh boy, what a gift. This big old energy is coming up. Now I can process the energy through reflection, get that wisdom out, and then consciously say, now here's your new purpose. Speak to the energy. It is energy. Here's your new purpose. And we speak in terms of vision and the new feeling. So the new feeling is joy, peace, love, laughter, unity, cooperation, accomplishment, attunement, and surrender to God's divine plan.
That's a beautiful balance between ecology and economy of energy. Because when you balance those two things, that brings out, which is not always an easy task, but when you balance those two things, you get this beautiful melody, this harmony that starts to happen. I was thinking about humility because I think there's an argument to be had for that surrendering to a higher power requires acknowledging one's limitations and embracing humility.
That's why
Has
we always say to God the glory. Father God are one, but it is not me that doeth the works, but my Father in heaven. That's one thing, one of my most important lessons that I love and adore. We never, ever take the credit. Ultimately, we know that God is source of everything, all ideas, all energy, everything. Surrender opens the channel for God to express the highest and the best through us. That's why I say I'm a child of God, I'm an instrument of God, and anything I accomplish is to glorify God, because God is ultimately the doer, provider, and giver. When we choose to tune to that, we're working in harmony and unity at that God vibration of giving love and giving whatever we can, giving and helping.
that's humility that plays a huge role in my spiritual journey. Can you share an experience where surrendering your ego led to spiritual growth?
Yes, actually. I remember going for a walk. I remember exactly where I was in a specific park in California. It was like 1 hour north of San Francisco Bay. I was walking through a park and I was basically communing the master and understanding that people can get tripped up on their ego and fall into these ego traps. I was almost pleading, saying, how do you stay out of that? Because there's so many traps as a human being. How can you really stay out of that? I just heard directly, always give credit to God. Just recently, somebody was complimenting me on something that I accomplished. I did say, all glory to God. So it's the learning of it, it's the expression of it, remembering it, and incorporating that into your soul. It is such a gift, really, because you do all this work to transmute the ego and realize your true self as the oneness of spirit. When you can partake in the peaceful presence and the infinite intelligence of God through union, who wants to ever leave that space of pure love and pure peace and get caught up in the sense of separation that the ego brings ever again? So I was solemnly and deeply wanting to know, how do you avoid this trap? My master guide at that time always said, always give credit to God. It touched me deeply. And at many moments in time, if credit is given to me, I pass it on to God. And that's a way of being. It's not a one-time thing. It's a way of being that hopefully I have developed and will get better at, because we always have room to grow.
Definitely. You cannot jump over your own shadow. There, there is a surrender that involves transcending the ego and allowing for that deeper connection with the divine. In what ways has ego transcendence enhanced your spiritual awareness?
It's a continual practice, but
Yeah.
I am practicing to get over myself already, not taking things personally when something hurts my feelings and it affects my heart that way, transcending and looking at it as energy, not taking it personally, learning the process really of getting out of the small self and back to the bigger self on a regular basis in order to process it from higher dimensional space. So I don't take things personally. For example, something happened in the workspace a few months ago, and I felt sad. It wasn't feeling like it worked or fit anymore. Instead of feeling like anybody did anything to me, I had to rise above that and go, oh, this is information. This isn't working like it used to. I am being redirected, which is a good thing, because it's part of the spiritual guidance to go when you need to go, or turn right when you need to turn right. It's heart guidance, which is intelligence. It's not personal thing, even though it feels that way. If it feels like your feelings are hurt in a way, it's part of that sensitivity, being an empath and feeling deeply, processing that energy and understanding that it's all information. So that one helped me very recently. Then new opportunities came into my life. I'm in the midst of crossing a bridge of many changes in my life. And part of that, when we go through these changes, there's what we know to be true in this moment, and an understanding that there's unknown. And sometimes you have to step into the unknown to get to your next place.
I was listening to a presentation by Dr. Wayne Dwyer, and yet he was saying that in his 60s, he had this beautiful place to live. He had clothes, he had a massive library. He gave the key and said, sell it all, give it away. And he moved to Maui. Even in his 60s, he surrendered and entered an orientation in his life of service acceptance. The feeling I have is surrendering involves accepting a life of service as well as aligning one's orientation towards a greater purpose. How has your understanding of service shaped your spiritual path?
Following divine guidance and being of service, when you set these high level intentions, you go through these spiritual tests, and going through the eye of the needle, you give up everything material. You are surrendered to whatever you have or don't have, and you live by your spiritual wits, so to speak. That did happen to me. I was spiritually guided. I gave up everything twice, actually. One time I gave up everything moved across the country for a couple of years, and then that was the last one. But basically gave up a home with a paid off mortgage and a tenured teaching position. So I was basically set for life. Gave it all away, followed my heart, which brought me much soul satisfaction and bliss. Got back into another financially stable situation. Then it was time to move on from that. I ended up living in my RV for a couple of years and going to a different place and being all by myself with very little financial income or stability. It was very good for me spiritually. It was like what I had was me. There were no material trappings at all whatsoever. I didn't even have my RV for a while. As a matter of fact, someone took me into their home and I slept on the hospital beds in the living room for about a month while my RV got fixed. So I was literally without anything. And a new angel came into my life and provided a place to live while I was going through the purification process. I was crying a lot every day for about a month. I knew it was a soul thing. Coming back out of that, because of my meditations and intentions, I understood the process I was going through, the spiritual refinement of the soul. I knew what was happening. But going through the eye of the needle is when you either consciously or soul consciously, because at some level you're in charge of your own life anyway, you plan everything. So you go through the eye of the needle is the spiritual rebirth tunnel of leaving the sense of identity and all of those trappings of the material world, then emerging. That's another resurrection. Then you realize I will always have what I need, clothes on my back, somewhere to sleep. God's got me. Something, someone always shows up. I am a child of God, and I have a lot to give just through who I am, not what I have.
That speaks to me about surrender and attunement, but also about a multi-dimensional connection and communion. One of the key things that I'm seeing in surrendering, it opens the portal to multidimensional connections and a sense of communion with the divine, but not only with the divine, but also from a planetary creation and universal communion. How do you perceive and experience multidimensional connections in your spiritual practice?
That's interesting because it's evolved. I remember like one time I was out at a campsite in an RV. I was doing some writing and all this profound stuff was coming to me and through me, like downloads, automatic writing, whatever. I started realizing that I had some telepathic connection to some higher intelligence. That was part of it. Then I would start asking, how do I know who's talking to me? They said, that's who you're talking to. I was like, oh. So then, and I have had guides, like ever since I was little, my grandma took me to Unity Church. I love Jesus. I wasn't particularly religious at all, but I loved Jesus. I felt this really heart and soul connection always. Then later, the connection to Paramahansa Yogananda became like cement, really, years of study of his stuff. So then Mother Mary came to me and through me, and I had personal interactions and lessons. Archangel Michael came to me and through me, and you just get to know the essence. It's that clairsentience, that knowing, but not really knowing how you know kind of thing. But you're in that space of eternal, absolute 0 point state of consciousness.
Is that like differentiating between personal intuition and guidance?
All of it is connected in the oneness of spirit. And in the oneness of spirit, there's like direct transmissions through the heart and soul. There are a lot of channels of communication. If you really think about it, if what they're trying to use in that transhumanism is voice to skull technology, where they transmit thoughts, where you actually get this thing that sounds like your own voice and you think it's your own thought, and drives people crazy when they're targeted individuals. Then there's intuitive, feels different. You can test spirits, so to speak, to see if they're of God. When you're completely clear and certain, you're on that level of spirituality. There's different levels and layers. There's the spiritual realm, There's the astral realm, which is psychic. You have to realize what realm you're dealing with, where your transmissions and reception is coming from. You get to know that as you start transversing the inner world. How do you get to know it? You ask. You might pick up books. You might not get it directly every time. You might have an experience, and then you might pick up a book, and then you might get the language for the experience that you didn't have words for, because spirit's a lot of feeling, images, and understandings that are now you've got to translate it into human terms of a language. But we're always communicating on all the levels. Like
Oh,
when you are
absolutely.
talking right now, we can feel a resonance and answer or ask a question that I was about to say, or vice versa.
Definitely. Another aspect of surrender is how it leads and connects to the significance of expressing gratitude for the gifts of a spiritual journey. How has the concept of gratitude played a role in your surrendering process?
Gratitude is the transition from transmission to materializing reality, because gratitude to me puts you in a place of isness. So if you're manifesting, you're saying, thank you, what I have projected or asked for already is. Also, the terminology, I am grateful for what's in my life right now, and I can list the people and the things. I am grateful for what's in my imagination right now, because I know that's how I manifest reality. That's already real. So gratitude makes an isness. It makes things real. It's funny because I've written 2 books about isness. One is The Wizard of Is, and Isness is My Business. Gratitude has to do with isness. It's like you claim it, you have faith. It is gratitude. It is.
Can you share a specific gift from your spiritual journey that you're particularly grateful for?
Oh, yes. I have to tell you something that happened one time. I was teaching computer classes in Oregon at a community college. I had been in meditation, and I was just like a child really, and just saying, God, I just want to see your hand in my life. Later that day or later that week, within a very short time, within a few days, I was teaching a class in Grants Pass, Oregon. A student came up to me. She gave me this gift, and it was God's hands with a baby in it. It says, God bless you. She was thanking me for something I said to her that helped her get through something. But the gift was from God and her, but we all work together. I said, I want to see your hand in my life. And here in this physical gift were God's hands holding a baby. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I almost feel like crying because it meant so much to me.
That's a beautiful story and demonstrates the power of asking, because what is it to ask?
Humility.
The other thing I wanted to talk about in the context of surrender and attunement is there are arguments that surrendering might lead to a loss of individual autonomy and personal decision making. I don't subscribe to that, but
Mhm.
how do you balance surrendering with maintaining a sense of personal autonomy? Have you ever felt conflicted about surrendering control over certain aspects of your life?
No, because in my experience, surrender renders the realization of my greatest potential and gifts from God that I can give. I get gifts from surrendering, gifts of the soul, of the spirit realm, gifts of writing, communication, gifts of a higher being. You learn to give, and you get the joy of giving, and understanding my soul's blueprint, being a part of God, because I can understand I can be a fractal of God and be part of all that oneness. At the same time, carry my own soul seed of specific, unique potential that I get to discover. It's not like anybody else in the whole wide world or universe or omniverse. It is that one piece that God has given me to realize and express, to be a integral part of the whole symphony of cosmic love. It's a more acute individuality, actually, when you surrender to spirit. I think, because then it's the highest self and the highest potential that's realized, recognized, and expressed. That feels good, joyful, and happy. That's happiness.
There might be a potential for misinterpretation because surrendering might suggest that it's a subjective thing and can be misinterpreted, which leads to misguided actions. How do you ensure the authenticity and clarity of the messages or guidance that you receive during surrender? That's part one. And part two is, have you encountered situations where surrendering led to unexpected challenges for you?
Yes, and yes. I know that I always have free will choice. For example, I can get guidance and it will resonate within if it feels right. It's
Right.
resonation, heart vibration, navigation. That's what I call it. That's resonation. I know who I am. I know the truth of my being, and I'm centered in that truth. That gives me the navigational compass to know what feels right and truly is right. The other thing, surrender and having to face challenges. I remember I'd been meditating for many years, and I said, it's funny now that it's over, but I said to God,
Always.
oh, okay, God, here I am, a naked soul. I didn't say test me, but I just said, here I am. This is it. I can't remember how I said it exactly in meditation, but I present myself to you as a naked soul. After that, I went through these major challenges and soul tests, but I knew I was getting soul tested. Then I went through the most difficult times in my life and I lived through it. It was extremely challenging, but it refined and evolutionized my soul. Would I say, oh, give me the worst experiences of my life so I can grow through it? Not on a human conscious level, but on a soul level, I think I did exactly that, to tell you the truth. I brought it on by surrender. I'm like, here I am. I surrender. This is my whole soul surrendering to you, God, my whole soul. And I called it a naked soul. I went through all that and look, I'm still alive.
The other side of this is some might argue that surrendering might result in an unhealthy dependence on external forces rather than personal empowerment. In what ways
Yes,
has surrendering empowered rather than hindered your personal growth?
it's always a paradox, isn't it? It's not either or, it's both and. That's the thing. With the mind, when it wants to understand a concept, they'll have the duality. It's this or it's that. And there's dark and light, but in the paradox, it's all integrated. I wrote a poem called Paradox, as a matter of fact. It's very interesting, but you're speaking to paradox. So the mind has a dualistic nature. When you're trying to understand a concept, you have a this and a that. And that can be useful. But if you get caught up in a concept and don't release the concept into the paradox of that integrated intelligence, you could get stuck in the concept. When you release that, you can get a broader, deeper understanding that comes from the wholeness and the oneness of infinite intelligence. And believe me, when you surrender to this greater intelligence, there's a thing in the Bible that Jesus said, I believe it was Jesus saying, lean not onto your own understanding. It's basically if you're giving up a pea brain to get a global brain, you really come out ahead, right? So surrender is like that. You're not giving anything up that you don't receive something greater for
Mm.
in the end.
For those who have difficulty in practicing surrender, because it can be challenging for many individuals to practice this consistently and build that density, what advice do you have for individuals who struggle with incorporating surrender into their spiritual practice?
I would say if you think about it like you're surrendering your difficulties, the small sense of self, which gives you a sense of separation, you're getting rid of the things that are most difficult in your life or cause difficulty or resistance. You're always getting something better when you surrender. When you're talking to God and you're facing the light within your own heart and soul, the surrender is to something higher. Now, I wouldn't surrender to anybody but God. Don't go around surrendering anything and everyone. This takes discernment, discrimination. You have to understand what surrender really is. It's surrender to God and the greater self, which is also your highest potential. You have to really understand what surrender is, I would say,
Mm.
and that it is beneficial.
Have you faced any challenges in maintaining a surrendering mindset, and how did you overcome them?
It's a process. Surrender is a daily process for me. I do it in
Mm.
meditation every day. I release things, I let go of things. One vision that I have, if things are troubling me, I have a vision called the law of diminishing concerns. And I'd have these air balloons that people go in with the baskets, hot air balloons. I imagine putting my concerns on a piece of paper, putting them in the air balloons and letting them go. That's
Mm.
the law of diminishing concerns. I let go of them. I know that higher intelligence will solve those.
Beautiful. What's been your experience today?
Oh, it's been great as usual. I love the way that you can elicit things that I would have never thought to share. You really have a gift, and I appreciate your gift. I appreciate being able to speak and share what my work is about because I really am here to help people and be of service. If my books or any of my websites or anything can be of help to anybody, a lot of it's free because there's a wealth of information on my websites. God bless everybody on your path. Everyone's doing great. Everyone's doing the best they can in every moment. We are growing by leaps and bounds. We're all in service doing our own little part, and every one of us is equally special, unique, and needed at this time.
That's
Big soul.
beautiful. Where can people find you, Michele?
They can find me at www.smile4love.com. They can email me at the same address, Michele@smileforlove.com, Michele. From there, you'll see my other websites and links. There's a whole network of links. So much to review and share. It's just a little playground of spiritual information. So thank you.
Beautiful. You're most welcome. It's been an honor and a pleasure.